So, what if you could walk up to a vending machine, but instead of getting a snack, you could fundamentally change how our economy works, how we own the very things that produce our goods? Today, we're digging into a really fascinating idea called the Earth Change Vending Machine. It's a blueprint for a totally new way to think about our economy. Let's see how it's supposed to work.
I know, at first glance, it looks kind of old school, right? Like some complex mechanical beast from another time. But don't let the looks fool you. This is the Earth Change Vending Machine, or ECVM for short, and it's really a powerful metaphor for a system that's designed to give us, the users, ownership over the things that make everything else, like land and resources.
So, what's the big idea powering this thing? Well, it's a concept called property left. Now, you've probably heard of copyleft, right? It's that super clever idea behind open source software. It basically takes copyright law and flips it on its head to make sure software code stays free for everyone to use and share. Property left asks, hey, what if we did that for real stuff? What if we could use the existing laws around property rights to make sure that the material sources of production, like land, actually end up in the hands of the people using them?
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the 4 special tokens that are kind of the building blocks of the machine. Then, we'll get hands-on and see how you would actually operate it. After that, we'll get to the really juicy part, the value zeros payoff. And finally, we'll quickly touch on how the whole thing is supposed to be governed.
All right, first things first, let's pop the hood and see what's actually inside this machine. The entire system is built on a really clear and simple idea of value, which is represented by 4 different digital tokens.
The whole thing starts by simplifying things a lot. It says, look, everything of value in the real world can be sorted into just 4 buckets. You've got land, which is all the natural stuff, the earthly inputs. You've got work, that's us, the human effort. Then you have goods, the finished stuff we actually make. And check this out, this is where it gets really interesting, money. In this system, money isn't seen as value itself. Nope, it's just a reference to value, kind of like a pointer.
Okay, so how do we connect these real-world things to a digital system? Well, that's the magic trick. For each of those 4 asset types, the ECVM creates a special, legally binding digital token. And this part is absolutely crucial. It's not just a symbol or some digital IOU. It's designed to give you real, actual legal authority over those real-world assets.
And here they are. It's a really clean one-to-one setup. A deed is your proof of owning a specific piece of land. A bond is a promise, a commitment to do work in the future. A ticket is basically your claim check for a future good. And finally, you have the coin, which represents that idea of money, and its supply is directly tied to how much land the system actually holds.
So, we've got our tokens. We know what they are. But how in the world do you actually use this thing? Let's imagine we're walking right up to the machine and we're going to start pushing some buttons to see what happens.
Okay, let's check out the buttons. The very first one is all about getting the system up and running, which means getting real-world land into its hands.
It all starts when you hit the Buy Coins button. You trade your regular money for the system's coins. Then the machine takes that money and goes out and buys actual land. And here's the kicker. The total supply of coins is now directly backed by a tangible, scarce asset. For every square meter of land the system owns, a new coin can be created.
So what's in it for you as a coin holder? Well, you essentially own a proof of scarcity. Your investment's value is anchored to a finite resource, actual land. The goal is pretty simple. As the system gets more valuable land, the value of the coins goes up. But, and this is a really big but, these coins are just for that. They don't give you any say in how things are run or any claim on the property itself.
Okay, great. The system has land. Now what? Land doesn't just magically turn into things we need. So how does anything actually get made? This is where the other tokens come into play, starting with the one that represents our effort. Let's talk about the bond. Now forget what you know about financial bonds. In this machine, a bond is way more personal. It's a commitment. When you sign a bond, you are making a legally binding promise to do a specific kind of work that the community needs to produce its goods.
So why would you sign a bond? Well, because you trade that promise of future work for tickets, and tickets are your claims on all the different goods the community makes. As a collective, the bondholders literally own the future work of others. This ensures that production happens without needing traditional wages. And most importantly, actually doing the work you promised in your bond, that's your direct path to earning real ownership in the system.
And that ownership, it comes in the form of a deed. This is your proof of ownership over a specific piece of land in the system.
Now, here is probably the most important rule of the machine. You cannot buy deeds. They can only be earned through work.
For deed holders, the benefit is the ultimate prize: ownership of the means of production. You earn these titles to land by fulfilling the work you promised in your bond. But what's really cool is how it works. Say you're a plumber. You could do plumbing work, but in exchange, earn deeds for the farmland that grows the community's food. It's all about contributing your skill to gain ownership of the resources you value. And unlike coins, holding deeds is what gives you a real say. It gives you governance rights over that land.
So we have this whole system of tokens and work and land, but what's it all for? What is the big economic payoff this machine is supposed to deliver?
We've seen all the inputs, right? Land, work, money. We've seen all the tokens moving around inside. So after all of that, what does the ECVM actually produce? What comes out the other side?
Zero. The goal isn't to create some number that goes up, but to make certain values go down, all the way to zero.
This is the system's whole point, the value zeros. First, zero rent. If you hold the deeds to the land your home is on, you own it. Your rent becomes zero. Second, zero wage. Because you're trading your work directly for land ownership, the whole concept of a monetary wage, that also goes to zero. And finally, zero profit. When you and your community own the land through deeds and the committed work through bonds, you own the entire supply chain. You own the goods without needing to buy them, which means the profit you'd pay to someone else is, you guessed it, zero.
Now, a system this ambitious needs a way to manage itself, right? To grow and adapt. So the governance model here is designed to be both scalable and super localized.
Governance is handled with two simple actions. Deed holders can join deeds to form bigger and bigger cooperative groups, which lets the network scale up organically. But just as importantly, they can fork deeds. This lets any group divide its land and split off, ensuring that local communities always have autonomy and control over their own resources. It's the best of both worlds.
And that really brings us to the final, thought-provoking question this whole machine leaves us with. It pushes us past the idea of just being a better consumer or finding a better product. It has something way more fundamental. What if you and your community could own your entire supply chain instead of just buying from it?